Good morning, boys and girls. We are going to study today about surveys and line plots that you can make when you take a survey. This is lesson 4 in our unit on data, which is graphing and things like that. We've already learned about line graphs and bar graphs and pictographs. Now we're going to really learn about line plots. Okay, I'm going to turn my camera around. And hopefully you will have your textbook, your notebook, and something to write with. The first thing that we're going to do, and if you don't have those things, you should pause the video. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is talk about a survey. Now, a survey is a way that you can collect data or information by asking a question and then recording the answers to the question. Very often it's used a tally chart is used to record the information, especially if you're asking a question that you don't necessarily need to know who answered what, you just need to know what their answer is. Then you would use a tally chart. If you need to know specifically a number in a category, then you would really write that number. Okay. Alrighty, so let's look at this particular example. Kay took a survey of her class and she asked her classmates how many hours a day they spend reading. And this is the results that she got, what you see here in this tally chart. Notice that there is a title, hours spent reading. There's a category with the number of hours that she got for answers. Some are blank. And then she recorded her classmates' answers using 1 mark for each student that said that's how many hours they read. So, there was only one student that said they read 4 hours per day, right? Survey, she asked her classmates how many hours each day. So one student said 4 hours per day. 2 hours per day. 5 students said that they were going to read it. Okay, that's how this particular tally chart works. So now you're going to use this information to make a line plot. Now, the way you would make a line plot is you start out with a number line. A number line. Now, it can be a piece of a number line. It can be, it's always going to be a piece of a number line because we can't draw a line infinitely in both directions. So you're going to do a section of a number line, but it might start at 0 or 1, but it might not. Depends on the information and the data that you collected. But each time every tally mark that you have, you would put an X above that number in your number line. Now, because we're only going up to 7, our scale is going to be 1 to 1. Every line is going to be worth one additional value than the one before it. Now, when you get to 1 hour per day, there were 6 people who said that. So then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 X's. For 2 hours, there's 5. So there's 5 X's. For 3 hours, there were 4 students that said they read 3 hours per day. So 4 X's. 1 for the 4 hours. Nothing for 5 and 6 because 5 and 6 are empty in your chart. And then there was this one lone student who said they read 7 hours per day. So there's an X for the 7. Okay, now you've got a line plot. That whole thing, that's a line plot. You're done. So once you have your line plot showing your data by arranging the X's along a number line, now you can find the range and the mode. Now the range is you take the highest value minus the lowest value. So 7 minus 1 is 6. So our range would be 6. Highest value minus lowest value. The mode is the answer by which that occurred the most often or when in your survey. So if you look at the number of X's, 1 has to be the mode because 1 has the most X's on it. The most people said they read 1 hour per day, probably because that's what was required in their reading log or something. Okay. So mode is the piece of data that occurs most frequently, and range is the highest value minus the lowest value. Okay? Now, you get something called an outlier, like number 7. When most of your answers are all grouped somewhat near each other, and then you get one that's way off here in right field in this case, that's an outlier. It's a value that's really far separated from all the rest of your data. Okay? It could be a number that was really low. Like, say all of our totals were in the 4, 5, 6, 7 range, and then there was one down here in the 1 range. Well, that would be the outlier, the one that's separated from the bulk of the rest of them. All the rest of them seem to be grouped around a few numbers, and then there's a space with nothing, and then you have this one value that's way far away from all the rest of the values. We call that an outlier. Okay, so we've already decided that 1 was our mode because it was the answer that occurred most frequently. We figured out that our range was 6 because our highest value was 7, our lowest value was 1. If we wanted to do the median, we would work from the ends. If you recall, you would, since there are 6 values here, let's go 6 this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now we have to go 2 and 2, so this x and the 2 would be in the middle. So the middle number, when you write them in order, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 4, and 7, the middle number would be a 2. So our median would be 2. Our range is 6, 7 minus 1, highest minus lowest, gives us 6 in this case, and our mode is the one that occurred most frequently, and that one is 1 in this particular case. All right, so now, using this information in our tally chart and our line plot, I'm going to ask you some questions that I want you to answer in your notebook. So you should have Chapter 7 4, Surveys and Line Plots is the title of the chapter. You should have today's date, and then skip a line and write number 1. And here's the first question I want you to answer. How many students spend 2 hours reading each day? So now you have to look at your 2-hour number. How many students, using this, how many students read for 2 hours each day? Well, all you do is count up your X's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the answer to number 1 is 5 students read 2 hours per day. Skip a line, question 2. How many students read fewer than 2 hours each day? So now we're looking for numbers lower than 2, and that would be this column. This is the only number that has a value less than 2. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 X's, so therefore there are 6 students. So that's what you're going to write for answer 2. 6 students read less than 2 hours per day. Question number 3. How many more students spent 3 hours reading each day rather than 4 hours reading each day? So they want to know how many more read for 3 hours than 4 hours. So you count up 1, 2, 3, 4 minus 1 gives you 3. 3 more students read 3 hours per day than 4 hours per day. Question 4. How many students were surveyed? So basically what you have to do is add all of these up. So we have, or you could just count them. 6 plus 5 is 11, plus 4 is 15, 16, 17. So 17 students were surveyed. And you can get all of this information off your line plot. Remember, X's equal how many people said that they read that number of hours per day.